I was having y'all, boy Rico from StreetScores, and I have some great Marshon Lattimore and Brian Robinson injury news / update. Now, honestly, to me, it's more of like a sigh of relief, but either way, I'm really happy to report what we're going to talk about today regarding those two. Help is on the way as well. The Washington Commanders tried out 5 players, most notably 2 big veteran running back names. We're going to dive into who those guys are, if they have anything left in the tank. But before we dive into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for pulling up and supporting every video. I will be live streaming this upcoming game against the Tennessee Titans. We cannot take them lightly. They just beat the the Houston Texans, and we just lost to the Dallas Cowboys. So if anything, based off of last week, you could honestly say that the Titans should be the better team, but I still feel like we're the better team. We just need to play like it. So make sure you pull up for that live stream, live play-by-play analysis on Sunday. Let's go ahead and and that will be the day after my birthday, so that's going to be somewhat of like a birthday stream as well. So make sure you pull up for that as well. But let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so Dan Quinn in his press conference before practice today announced that Marshon Lattimore will practice today with the team for the first time since we acquired him. He said, quote, "Some first shots at practice with Marshon Lattimore today. We're pumped to get him back onto the field. It's hard to predict," unquote. And hey, man, who you telling? But I'm pretty sure with him being the head coach of the Commanders, it's been an even more chaotic and even crazier situation with him compared to us fans that have been on the edge of our seat as far as this whole situation goes. But Marshon Lattimore will finally get some practice today. Really excited. This will be the first time Marshon Lattimore will be involved with a Commanders practice since we traded for him, since he's had the Commanders jersey on his back. This will be the first time that he's actually out there running with the guys. He's been running around, especially last week. John Com reported that he was like at 3/4 speed. He was already doing cuts. He was already practicing like some coverage things, but it was all like individual stuff. Now he will start to practice with the team. We can start to get a feel for how he will fit into the defense. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited. I'm probably going to come back to y'all with another video tonight just to update y'all on how he looked with like videos and clips. Y'all know how I typically do. And shouts out my boy Serge the Shooter, because this tweet was pretty funny, but I kind of feel him. He said, "All right, I've seen enough. Rest him until Sunday." I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm leaning that way a little bit, but I'm also kind of leaning towards, honestly, I still kind of want to hold him out until after the bye week. Rushing him back for this Titans game concerns me, honestly. But if he is 100%, and you know that for sure, then play him for sure. No worries. But if there's any slice of doubt, I say you hold him out of the Titans game, let him have the entire bye week to rest some more, to recover some more, and then debut him against his former team, the New Orleans Saints. And I'm pretty sure that's what the script writers are cooking up anyway for the dramatic side of everything. So it sounds like that's more likely to happen, even if the script writers have anything to do with it. If the NFL, the league office, Roger Goodell and those guys have anything to do with it, and he say he's gonna wait until that Saints game to finally make his debut. But again, for me, if he's 100%, you know he's good to go. There are no limitations. He's not overthinking things with his hamstring injury. He's going to be able to go out there and give it 100% effort. Then go ahead and play him against the Titans, because then that would give him a little bit of a sample of like, okay, this is how I fit in the defense. And then even all of the players around him, this is how the defense fits around him. Joe Witt Jr., this is how we utilize him better. You know, we've watched this tape with New Orleans, but it's not going to be until he steps out there on that field in meaningful games to where we have a better idea, a great idea of what his weaknesses and strengths are, what he wants, what he doesn't want, and things like that. I mean, you can ask him, but you know, it's going to be hard to get that perfect chemistry of how the scheme fits around Marshon Lattimore, how Marshon Lattimore fits inside the scheme. It goes both ways, and it takes real game action to really figure that out. So if you can play him against the Titans, even better. First of all, we probably need him. We're going to talk about that soon. But on top of that, even just long-term wise, that will be an extra game ahead that he will be as far as gaining chemistry with the DBs around him, as far as communication goes and chemistry, knowing like, okay, when the offense is doing a certain look, I know that if I need to make an adjustment, I do this, you do that, you do that, you do that. That's why we have allowed less explosives this season compared to previous seasons, or even like later on this season compared to earlier in this season. That chemistry, that bond between all of the corners and DBs, safeties in the secondary really matters. Talent matters a lot as well. Marshon Lattimore has a lot of that, but as far as like chemistry or like a full understanding of what Joe Witt Jr. wants out of him in his scheme, you know, the sooner he plays, the better. Even long-term wise, even if we're projecting on to the playoffs, him getting an extra game in would pay dividends towards that effort and that 100% chemistry we're trying to gain. He's not going to have that in his first game playing. So it would be nice to go ahead and get a lot of the growing pains out early against the Titans so that he can come and play for the Saints, rather than a lot of those growing pains taking place versus the Saints. And then we have to turn around and hope he has enough chemistry with the team to be ready for the Eagles the following week after that, and we need that win. So again, the sooner the better, but if there's any doubt, if he's any type of hurt still, if there's any limitation to him, don't force him against the Titans. Let him take that bye week. But shouts out to Dean Jones of Rico's Rag for producing this article titled "Big Marshon Lattimore Injury Update is Timely Boost for the Struggling Commanders." And what he said was the Washington Commanders are still waiting for the debut of Marshon Lattimore. Even seeing him practice would be a bonus at this juncture. I completely agree. Lattimore has been missing for the last 3 games since his trade from the New Orleans Saints. And remember, this was a few weeks ago. He's already missed 3 games since we traded for him. The Steelers game, we traded for him before the Steelers game. So Steelers game, Cowboys game, and also the Eagles game in between. I don't know why I said that out of order. He's working his way back gradually from a hamstring injury. The Commanders are taking every possible precaution to ensure the 4-time Pro Bowl cornerback is ready to hit the ground running when medically cleared. We can't forget that this is like a Pro Bowl. I mean, he hasn't necessarily won like an all-pro award, but you could argue there were a couple of seasons where he may have been the best corner in the NFL, and you could argue that he just got slighted reward-wise. So to me, he's an all-pro talent that we just have waiting in the refrigerator right now. Can't wait to deploy him. Dan Quinn also offered a promising update regarding Lattimore last week. Remember, Dan Quinn said last week before the Cowboys game, quote, "I'm hopeful that he's able to see the field some this week. He's trending in the right space. He's working really hard from the rehab spot to see where he can go. We're just not going to take the chance if it's not all the way ready. And good news, we're trending in a really strong way, and we'll see what he looks like, but we're moving in the right way for sure." Unquote. Again, that was Dan Quinn just last week. Continuing with Dean Jones' article of Rico's Rag, the head coach didn't think it would be too much longer before he'd be involved. He worked separately from teammates on the side field last week, which left him unavailable for Washington's disastrous home loss to the Dallas Cowboys at Northwest Stadium. Again, remember, John Com said he was 3/4 speed, said he was at 75% last week. Now we just got to wait and see what he is this week. With the Commanders' promising start to the campaign fading quickly on the back of 3 straight losses, the urgency to get back on track versus the Tennessee Titans before their bye week cannot be overstated. I completely agree. That would feel like 2 weeks of losing if we lose to the Titans right before the bye week. That would feel like 5 straight weeks of losing, honestly. This also raises the anticipation regarding Lattimore's potential involvement in assisting a cornerback room through immense complications. I mean, Benjamin St. Juste regressing, and like I told y'all yesterday, he just played the least amount of snaps in the game since his rookie season. He's not hurt. They're just slowly fading him out of the defense right now. Benjamin St. Juste, again to repeat, played the least amount of snaps since his rookie season just against the Cowboys this past weekend. Like the least, they are done with him. They're slowly moving him out of the way, basically, and preparing for a defense that will not involve him. And maybe that's a good sign for Marshon Lattimore. That's also probably like we're tired of Benjamin St. Juste costing us games, so we're going to start playing him less and less. Then Noah Benogany and Michael Davis were very inconsistent. Michael Davis especially, but Noah Benogany, it seemed like he had good coverage one snap, and then it was a pass interference the next. Also, of course, Emmanuel Forbes, I mean, he just doesn't even play at all at this point. And rookie second rounder Mike Sainristil cannot do it alone, despite showing a lot of promise in the previous couple of weeks. And getting Lattimore into the mix will provide this unit a huge boost. That will change everything. Like I've already explained, since before we even traded for him, and why I was saying we needed to trade it for Marshon Lattimore, I was saying that him being so great in coverage will also help our run defense defense, because now Marshon Lattimore can just handle one side of the field. He could be on an island with less safety help, and now you can dedicate more players to stopping the run. So that's going to improve our coverage and run defense. Also, as you can see on the screen right now, that boy Marshon Lattimore got that helmet on, man. So again, like I said earlier, later on, probably later on today, this evening, nighttime sometime, if there are some clips of Marshon Lattimore practicing, best believe I'm going to get y'all those clips. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And this also lets us know that we are wearing our all-black uniforms versus the Titans because we have the black helmets on in practice. So take note of that as well. And then Dan Quinn said before practice that Brian Robinson will practice today despite suffering an ankle injury on Sunday versus the Dallas Cowboys. And this situation is so weird because the injury he suffered looked like a season-ending type of injury as soon as it happened. The way he was laying on the ground, even before that, the way he got tackled looked crazy. And then somehow he was able to walk off on his own. But then we saw him head to the locker room real quick while we were on defense. Then suddenly he's coming back outside, coming back onto the sideline right before our offense steps onto the field again. And then as soon as our offense steps on the field, not only is he on the field, but we run the ball with him. We hand him the ball and he has some nice runs. And then nothing really drastic happened after that, but we go into halftime. We come out of halftime. Brian Robinson doesn't play for the rest of the game. So that was a very weird situation. We went from thinking he was out for season to, okay, maybe it won't be too long till we get him back. Okay, actually, he's playing right now. Wait a minute. Like, he's back on the sideline. He must be questionable to return. Good to go. I assumed he would be an automatic out, but they said questionable to return. Then he came back onto the field, and then he ran the ball and ran really well. And then suddenly, after halftime, we never see him again, and now I'm worried again. And then Brian Robinson's apparently practicing today, according to Dan Quinn. So now we're back at like a medium worry, I guess. And then this is, of course, good news, obviously. Signs were pointing in the direction when Washington didn't sign another running back, that especially the two that we worked out yesterday, which I feel like is a good time to segue into that now. We worked out 5 players yesterday, as in Tuesday, November 26th. Full list of names: cornerback Jason Maitre, I hope that's how you pronounce that, cornerback Quantrez Knight, and then of course Jerry Jacobs, who I did an entire video on yesterday if you want to go check that out. I hope that we sign him, but we'll see. And then you have 2 running backs, James Robinson and Boston Scott. Again, that's 3 cornerbacks, 2 running backs. But the most interesting part, mostly because of the names mentioned, are definitely the 2 running backs. We worked out free agent running backs James Robinson and Boston Scott, and I mean, it's not looking too good. Like, I originally thought, like, especially yesterday before we got this Brian Robinson update that I'm giving you right now earlier today. Yesterday, when I saw we worked out 2 running backs, I was like, oh, Austin Eckler's probably done for season. Brian Robinson with that ankle sprain is probably going to be out for a long time as well. Now, it looks like Brian Robinson may not be out that long, and then we're waiting for an update on Austin Eckler. I have a small update for you later on, but regardless, we brought in 2 pretty big name running backs. These aren't just random slouches that have never done anything at the NFL level. These are guys with proven success. We can start with Boston Scott. He ran 302 times for 1,295 yards and 16 touchdowns for the Eagles over the last 6 seasons. That's not very efficient, but he has some mileage on him. He's been there, done that for a little bit. He failed to make the Rams 53-man roster this past summer and had a brief stint on the Steelers practice squad, but now he is just a free agent available for anybody to sign. And if you remember Boston Scott, especially if you played fantasy football, I mean, the 2021 season where he played his most snaps was also his highest Pro Football Focus grade. The season he played 121 snaps. He ended up having 217 yards after contact, which I feel like is very noteworthy. He had a 71.7 grade. Now, total, he only had 373 yards just out of the entire season. But again, 217 of those yards were after contact. So he earned every single one of those yards himself. He averaged a 4.3 yards per attempt as far as carries go. And again, he had 7 touchdowns that season. He had a grade of a 71.7 according to Pro Football Focus. They feel like that was his best season. That was also the last time he played quite a bit in a season, because after that in 2022, he only played 77 snaps. And then in 2023 with Philadelphia, he only played in 30 snaps. So I don't know what happened. 2021, he was very productive. He was doing a great job of getting yards after contact, but for some reason they felt like they didn't want to play him that much anymore, and then they didn't want him anymore, and then the Rams had him, didn't want him, and then the Steelers had him and didn't want him. So I don't know what's going on. And I know y'all remember 2020 and 2021 James Robinson. Moving on to him, again, if you played fantasy, this was even more noticeable than Boston Scott. You will remember James Robinson's 2020 rookie season for them Jacksonville Jaguars was stuff of legends for a little minute. I'm not gonna lie. You would be shocked. Like if you told me back in 2020 that James Robinson would not be on a team in 2024, I would be absolutely shocked. He balled out for them guys back then. But just to let you know, recently Robinson played in one game for the Packers last year and closed out the 2022 season with the Jets after being acquired in a trade with the Jaguars. He was traded for just in 2022. The Jets believed in him. Somebody believed in him fairly recently, just a couple of years ago. But Robinson ran for 1,070 yards as a rookie for Jacksonville in 2020, but hasn't returned to the same effectiveness since tearing his ACL, Achilles late in 2021. Which takes me to his Pro Football Focus grade of his rookie season 2020 was a 72.9, arguably one of the best running backs in the entire NFL, at least one of the most explosive ones. He had a 78.5 running grade. That guy had 1,070 rushing yards, and 764 of them, Pro Football Focus said, was after contact. That is insane stuff right there. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry attempt, which is insane as well. And then even the next season, before he got hurt, he ended up tearing his Achilles late in the season. He had 767 yards. He averaged even more yards per attempt with a 4.7. And out of his 767 yards, they attributed 439 of them after contact. Another guy that is earning his yardage. So really, to compare the two running backs that we brought in for workouts, Boston Scott has been decent for like the past few years. He's been more consistent. You can say he's probably a little bit more reliable at this point, while James Robinson was electric for like a year and some change, honestly, like almost a full 2 years and up until the point that he tore his Achilles, but just hasn't been the same since a major injury. So Scott has been the more steady, dependable running back the past couple of years, while James Robinson at his best was easily better and a more dangerous weapon than Boston Scott ever was. So you kind of have the best of both worlds. Do you want to play it safe with Boston Scott, or do you want to see if you can strike gold with James Robinson and see if he maybe recovered from his injury? Also, next up in injury update news, running back Austin Ekeler and right tackle Andrew Wiley, both in concussion protocol, will not practice today. Honestly, once they don't practice on Wednesday, I don't expect them to practice Thursday nor Friday and be available for the following game on a Sunday, especially with a bye week looming afterwards. You might as well just hold those guys out for the next 2 weeks. And Austin Ekeler, I'm looking at him like, this is your second concussion this season. I don't know. Maybe you need to hold out for the rest of the season type of thing, but we'll see. That's something we need to watch. If he says he's good to go and they do all of the tests and he's 100%, not 90 something, 100%, then I guess play him. But I don't know. I'm looking at Austin Ekeler like maybe you want to just go ahead and call it for this season. We'll see though. We have the Titans game. Definitely sit him out of that. Bye week, of course, that will be an extra week of rest and recovery. We'll see about the Saints game. And then Dan Quinn also emphasized that everyone else will practice in some capacity. So right now, even though we're dealing with what it feels like quite a few injuries right now on the team, it seems like actually we're probably getting healthier overall as a team. Maybe not the running back room specifically or the offensive line with Andrew Wiley out as well, but overall as a team, this is probably one of the healthiest units we've had since this season started, especially with Marshon Lattimore now practicing. This will probably be the most participants we've had in a practice all season. Literally, Austin Ekeler and Andrew Wiley are the only people not practicing. It sounds like everybody else is good to go. Also, as an update, kicker Austin Seibert reported a new injury on Monday. So a lot of people were speculating that maybe Dan Quinn mismanaged this whole thing. He missed a couple of games due to an injury, and then he goes out there and kicks poorly against the Cowboys and ended up losing us that game. So a lot of people were speculating like, hey, maybe he was still hurt. Dan Quinn, that's on you. Why did you allow that guy to play? Well, apparently, as reported today, he now has a groin injury, which is different from the hip injury that held him out the previous 2 games. So the groin injury, not the hip, is what landed Austin Seibert on IR, on the injured reserve. He is officially now on the injured reserve list. I know there was a lot of speculation, especially since he told reporters after the game, I made the decision to play. He put that on himself after dealing with the hip issue, but apparently this is a completely different injury. So the Commanders have placed kicker Austin Seibert on the injured reserve and re-signed running back Chris Rodriguez to the roster. So now we have Michael Wiley, we have Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez, and it looks like even even Brian Robinson is practicing. And then we also brought in James Robinson and Boston Scott for tryouts. We'll see what running backs we roll with. We'll probably just stick with the 4 that we already have, including Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols, and Michael Wiley. And then also the Washington Commanders yesterday signed defensive tackle Viliami Vihoko Jr., who I did a video on last week, to the practice squad, and then also released guard Marquise Hayes from the practice squad to make room for that defensive tackle, just to let you know. Also, the Commanders have kicker Zane Gonzalez on the practice squad, and he could be elevated for one more game before the team has to sign him to the active roster in order to keep him. They're doing like a weird finesse right now where he's technically not on the roster, he's on the practice squad, but he keeps ended up playing for us. He played for us against the Steelers and Eagles, never missed a kick, never missed a point after attempt, which would have been really useful against the Cowboys because we probably would have won that game if we basically just had thrown Zane Gonzalez out there in the first place. But then we brought Austin Seibert back for that Cowboys game. And then now, again, if you're going to play Zane Gonzalez again, you have to officially sign him. But now with Austin Seibert to the injured reserve, that will be an easier job. That will be an easier thing to do. But Washington's bye week, of course, is next week, week 14. So they technically have a couple of weeks to decide how they're going to handle that. But, I mean, Austin Seibert on the injured reserve, obviously, you're going to sign Zane Gonzalez as your new kicker. And again, he hasn't missed a single kick in the 2 games that we played him. So that's good news to hear. Also, before we get up out of here, Dan Quinn said some pretty interesting things. First of all, he said today's focus in practice will be on third down situations for both sides, defense and offense. I like that. Dan Quinn also said that the team has stayed consistent in fourth down mindset, but the lack of third down success has been the factor with the fact that we have fewer fourth down attempts. It's no longer situations where it'd be like 4th and 1, 4th and 2. We would be in like 4th and 5, 4th and 7s right now because of the lack of success on third downs, basically. So I understand what he's saying there. Dan Quinn also talked about Sean Taylor and his 17th anniversary of his tragic passing. He said, quote, "It gives me chills just thinking about the presence and what it can mean to a team and a group. Sean had that in abundance," unquote. If you want to see that clip real quick, I have it right here. Just a quick 10 seconds.
First thing, kind of gives me chills just on my arms right now, thinking about what presence can mean to a team and to a group. And Sean, had that in abundance.
And then also in super random news before we get up out of here, the Vikings have signed former Commanders first round pick linebacker Jamin Davis to the 53-man roster. Not even to the practice squad, the 53-man roster. So we may see him playing. And if they end up liking him, maybe we see the Vikings in the playoffs and we play against Jamin Davis. That would be really interesting. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Make sure you leave a like on the way out. Definitely let me know in the comment section how you feel about the Marshon Lattimore whole situation. If he's ready to go against the Titans, are you comfortable with him playing, or do you feel like we should just hold him out until the Saints game no matter what? How do you feel about the whole running back situation? Brian Robinson's practicing, but how useful will he be against the Titans? Should we just go ahead and hold him out until after the bye week and let him return against the Saints as well? Same thing with Austin Eckler and Andrew Wiley. And how do you feel about the 2 running backs we brought in for tryouts? How do you feel about James Robinson and Boston Scott? If you had to choose between the 2, who would you prefer? And would you prefer either of those guys over Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols, or Michael Wiley? Let me know that as well. And of course, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. I'm going to try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. I really appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.